The following program contains coarse language. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the 50th season of The Fifth Estate. I'm here in what's known as Peace Country, northern British Columbia, where a deadly turf war over drugs has left citizens on edge and left a trail of dead, including a body found below this historic bridge.
What's happening to our town? We're 12,000 people. Why was there 6 drive-by shootings in 4 days?
A wild car chase on Sunday morning, leading to shots fired in Dawson Creek.
People in Dawson Creek find themselves caught in the crosshairs as big city violence comes to small-town Canada.
After a body was found down this rural road on Sunday, police were calling the death suspicious.
And then one by one, people here started to go missing, vanishing without a trace.
My worst fear has always been that one of my sisters was going to go missing and I wouldn't be able to find them.
The town is scared. He was the 4th person to go missing, and there were 7 murders that year.
As questions mount about the RCMP and their effort to stop the violence.
You want your town back?
We want our kids back.
How do you explain to them that in the last couple of years, there's 11 either missing, murdered, or suspicious deaths with no arrests, no charges, no answers?
Given the shrinking media landscape in this country, we asked you, what story deserves more attention? And that brought us here as we investigate with you. I'm Mark Kelley. This is The Fifth Estate. Tucked away in northeastern BC, not far from the Alberta border, you'll find the town of Dawson Creek. It may be best known as Mile Zero of the Alaska Highway, attracting travelers hungry for adventure from across Canada and the US. But the community finds itself at a different kind of crossroads these days. Mike Bernier is the former mayor of Dawson Creek, now the MLA for the area in the BC legislature.
I moved up here in 1993 on a 2-year plan to come up here and work in the oil and gas sector and never left. What an amazing place that's really community, a great place to raise your family.
At least it has been for years. But as the community grew along with the oil and gas industry, so did the threat that is tearing families apart. About 12,500 people live here in Dawson Creek, and this is the kind of place where people just don't know each other, they support each other. It's a social fabric that's held this community together for decades. But that social fabric is now torn, tattered, and frayed after a series of violent incidents. This is an almost daily reality in Dawson Creek. Paramedics at the scene of a drug overdose. Since 2016, overdose calls have exploded from 48 a year to more than 230.
Tonight, possible shooting. Police look for a suspect and a victim.
As drug use and drug sales soared in town, so did violent crime.
You know, as you can see, it's a beautiful, quiet little town that very often becomes not so quiet in a spectacular way.
Michael Popov is one of the few journalists left in Dawson Creek.
We got the word that there was a body that had been found and that it was someone who was murdered with a car set on fire.
We see now what's happening with what's going on in Dawson Creek with the importance of local media.
He hosts the local newscast for CTV, covering a huge swath of BC and Alberta, sometimes on his own.
Welcome back and happy Monday. Hope everyone had a great weekend.
In the last 3 years, the media landscape has changed dramatically. The 2 newspapers have gone after almost 100 years in business. So I've spent most of this year with 1 reporter or with no reporters at all.
As local media dries up, so does the public pressure on all levels of government and the police to find solutions to what is tearing towns apart. We decided to investigate after we received an email from a Fifth Estate viewer urging us to shine a national spotlight on the crime plaguing Dawson Creek. A quick scan of RCMP news releases in Dawson Creek revealed a troubling portrait. 11 people either missing or murdered in the last 3 years. In the relatively remote, once quiet community in BC, violent crime had come to town. Several of those cases have been handed over to RCMP investigators who work at a detachment 5 hours away.
I can't even get an email returned from a police officer or an investigator outside of Dawson Creek that are taking over these files.
When our investigation began this spring, there were 4 missing people in Dawson Creek. All the cases suspicious.
Daryl Lynn Supernant has been missing since March the 15th, and police are once again asking for the public's help in finding her.
In the spring of 2023, the 29-year-old Cree woman disappeared without a trace.
All I could think was, no fucking way. That's my worst fear has always been that one of my sisters was gonna go missing.
Jordan Cornish is Darylyn's stepsister.
The first day we met, I remember thinking I was so excited because she actually liked me and we got matching shirts and I was, yeah, it was nice. I was so excited to have another sister.
Jordan says Darylyn became her protector, trying to make her street safe in an increasingly dangerous place.
She was always there to, you know, like, hey, don't hang out with these people, don't go there, you know. She always kept me safe.
Keep it locked up or else
But they didn't stay safe, both drawn into the trap of Dawson Creek's drug scene.
How long have you been in Dawson?
Most of my life.
Brad Supernant is Darylyn's father. He wears the scars, inside and out, of a life lived hard in Dawson Creek.
There's always drugs here. Ever since I can remember, there's been drugs here.
But now the drugs are killing people.
Yep. She was using heroin all the time. She wouldn't stop.
Did you try to get her to stop?
I was at the same place for her. Goose.
Indigenous women and girls are 6 times more likely to be murdered in Canada than non-Indigenous women. 15% of Dawson Creek's population identifies as Indigenous, and Darylyn's family felt her disappearance wasn't getting the attention it deserved from the RCMP.
I started going around town and talking to everyone. I went on trips to Grand Prairie. I'd walk around the streets there, but, you know, showing everyone her picture, telling everyone her name, her story, all that.
Jordan's search for her stepsister began to yield some disturbing clues that came with a warning.
One of the big rumors I heard too was that she was just in the wrong place, wrong time. And I had friends coming to me and telling me, you know, there's people like looking for you. They don't want you looking for Darylyn.
Jordan's fears may not have been exaggerated. In this video, obtained by the Fifth Estate, Darylyn's cousin, Renee Supernant Didier, can be seen searching as well, pushing for answers. 3 weeks after that video was filmed, Renee was the next to disappear.
Dawson Creek RCMP are asking for the public's help in finding a missing woman. Police are looking for Renee Didier, who was last seen Saturday.
Renee is 40, the mother of 2. After splitting with her husband, her family says her life took a turn for the worse. Leanne Greyeyes is her aunt.
What do you remember about the night that Renee disappeared?
We were actually, she was out here on her phone and she came in and I said, why don't you just stay in and spend the night and we'll watch movies. And she's, no, I'm going to go out. So that was the last I talked to her. It's really scary out there right now in Dawson. It's really changed over the years.
And what's changed it? Why has it changed?
Drugs.
Drugs.
Drugs, mostly.
And was Renee getting mixed up with the drugs?
Yeah, unfortunately, yes.
But like Darylyn's disappearance, there were no answers for Renee's family.
Tell me what it was like as you're not hearing from her. Days are turning into weeks. What was the fear?
It was really hard on my mom because she raised her. And we're all such a close family, so we were all so worried. We didn't know where she was or what, but we all knew she had to have been missing.
When you heard that she was missing, what was the first thing that crossed your mind?
Like, who did what to her? Like, that's how bad this town is.
Okay.
Lifelong Dawson Creek resident Laura Lambert is the aunt to both Renee and Darylyn. She's raising her own daughter's son, calling herself the community's mother bear.
And what were you trying to do with Renee, with her life?
I was trying to get her to stop, to be safe. This is a safety zone here. I didn't want her being out and about. And she would always call me when she wasn't here. I'm here, I'm okay, I'm coming home. And then after a while, there was no calls.
Where are the police?
They don't care. That's the way I look at it. They've been given so many tips about these people missing. You don't see them doing anything. You don't hear nothing. Nobody's invested. We feel like nobody gives a shit because they're natives. That's the way a lot of people are looking at it.
When we come back, a young man arrives in town to celebrate New Year's Eve, and another name is added to the list of the missing in Dawson Creek. It's December 2023, and Cole Hosack hit the highway from Prince George, BC, hoping he could leave his troubles behind. The 24-year-old desperate for a fresh start after a painful year. Winding his way through BC's northern lakes and mountains, he was bound for a job opportunity in Alberta. But first he'd make a quick stop in Dawson Creek to ring in the new year. It's a decision that would change his life and the lives of those who love him forever.
Let's start with Cole. Big sigh.
Yes.
Tell me about Cole.
Cole is, I want to say, a big personality. So when you meet Cole, you know you've met Cole.
Julie Hosack is Cole's mother. She says her son has always lived life large and on his own terms. His greatest passion? Being a dad. But when his second child was born last fall, Cole's life came crashing down.
Hendrix came 7 weeks early, so he was just a little guy, with severe heart issues.
A team of doctors tried to save Hendrix, to no avail.
What did that do to Cole?
Oh, he was devastated.
He was the smallest thing I'd ever seen in my whole life. So tiny, and he looked just like his dad. Yeah.
Morgan Crawford is Hendrix's mother and Cole's partner. She says their trauma spiraled into a dark place, heavy drinking and conflict.
It's one of my biggest regrets because if we didn't have that fight, he probably would have never left.
And that's how Cole ended up on the highway to Dawson Creek last winter. He arrived at sunrise in the dying days of December and sent this photo to Morgan, promising her this is gonna work. A friend invited Cole to join her at this bar on New Year's Eve. He ended up sharing a table with Laura Lambert, aunt of the two missing women in town.
Very nice, well-behaved young man. like very nice. He sat here and talked about his son and the loss of his baby. That, like, it was heartbreaking to hear his story and stuff.
Lambert says later in the evening, the celebrations took a dark turn.
These guys walked in, and one of the guys coming through $10 at Cole in front of him. We're taking over the pool table. And Cole said, "No, you're not."
Were you worried at any point that Cole, after getting into a beef
I was
with these
worried,
guys?
because I didn't know who those guys are. And I didn't know if they're capable of everything, because I've never seen them before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the way they were acting. Like, you could tell they're obviously, I don't know if they're drug dealers or what they were, but they're intimidating. You could see it, but Cole wasn't scared.
At 12:18, Cole headed outside for a cigarette and a phone call.
He FaceTimed me on New Year's Eve from the bar that he was at. And just, "I love you, Happy New Year." And the phone call ended, "I love you, I'll see you tomorrow or the next day."
What Cole Hosack may not have known is he'd walked into a town on edge, and people were scared.
We are writing this letter as a group of residents on behalf of the community who have lost confidence in the local RCMP's detachment's ability to address acute crime in the area.
This meeting at City Hall sealed the fear and frustrations in Dawson Creek, especially with drug-related crime. So citizens banded together to fight back.
We're just headed out. We're gonna go out and do a bit of a patrol.
They call themselves Citizens Take Action, saying 200+ volunteers patrol the streets in shifts.
Like, how do we make a difference? This isn't what our town was 4 or 5 years ago.
The patroller didn't want us to show his face, fearing reprisals from criminals in town.
I mean, these guys are just doing drive-bys to do drive-bys, it seemed like, so you didn't want to be even perceived as following somebody.
Because you could get shot.
You could get shot, yeah.
The RCMP praised the group for helping the Mounties recover $150,000 in stolen property hidden at a farm. But the group has been controversial. We were told they were attacking people on the streets.
But I've heard some people in town who call you guys vigilantes.
Yeah.
You've heard that?
Yeah.
I'm not telling you anything you haven't heard.
No.
How do you respond to that?
I respond saying we're vigilant. We've got our eyes open all the time. Mm-hmm. And we don't action stuff. When we see stuff happening, we call the RCMP.
In November 2023, the RCMP responded to residents' concerns by calling in members of the anti-gang unit to reinforce the local detachment. Fast forward to January 2nd. That's when Julie Hosack says she started getting frantic phone calls and text messages. Cole was missing.
When you're told that he's missing, what is going through your mind?
I knew from the beginning that something was wrong.
Julie drove 10 hours from Calgary to Dawson Creek and did what any mother would. She searched for her son.
Why were you searching for Cole?
Because if I didn't, who else would?
The police?
Right. That was a nightmare at the beginning. So when I went there, they told me essentially not to search.
Julie did anyway, organizing 4 two-day searches, joined by the families of Renee Didier and Darylyn Supernat.
I had asked the RCMP if they were going to come to the search, and they declined. Like, clearly the RCMP are not doing their job at all.
Mike Bernier took those frustrations to the BC legislature.
58 days. That's how long Cole Hosack has been missing after stopping in Dawson Creek for a quick visit on New Year's Eve. Imagine being his mom, Julie, or his friends and family, having no answers, no clues, and no substantive communication from authorities on what's going on to find him.
But none of that brought answers in the disappearance of Cole Hosack. Cole's partner, Morgan Crawford, came to Dawson Creek to start her own investigation. She retraced his final footsteps, visiting a restaurant where he'd eaten. This CCTV footage, some of the final images of him. This was right beside the bar where he would last be seen alive. Morgan then crossed the street to a tire shop after noticing they had several security cameras.
And I said, my fiance is missing from here. I need to know if the RCMP came and got footage from you. The guy at Fountain Tire said they came and got it. He said, I actually reviewed it with them. And I said, what did you see? And he looked at me and he said, if you saw what I saw, you wouldn't expect to find your fiance alive.
Shortly after the RCMP reviewed that footage, they appealed to anyone with dash cam video of this lonely stretch of highway to contact them. It was the road leading out of Dawson Creek. Were the Mounties now looking for a body? When we come back, the Fifth Estate investigation yields important new information and even more questions.
Do you have anything to do with Darylyn's death? Do you have anything to do with Renee's death?
I have nothing to do with anybody's death.
Darylyn Supernet had been missing for 15 agonizing months. The initial RCMP report said the Mounties believed she was still in the Dawson Creek area. This past June, that was confirmed in a tragic way.
The BC Coroner Service confirms the human remains found in April are those of Darylyn Supernet.
I remember the day they said they found her skeleton. I felt like such a weight was lifted off of me and I felt like I could breathe again.
But why was her body dumped in a ditch? Her father, Brad, started asking questions, and what he learned was stunning.
I know she was shot by a .22 in the head.
How do you know that?
My friend of mine was picking bottles. She found the body.
Why would somebody want to shoot your daughter in the head?
She might have witnessed something or done something, or I have no idea.
Do you remember the last time you spoke with her?
Yeah, a little bit.
What was she telling you about?
She witnessed a murder.
She told you that she witnessed a murder.
I'm not saying another word, fuck. Leave me alone.
All right. And that's what got her killed.
Double murder, yes. She witnessed both of them. That's why she's gone.
We were slowly starting to connect the dots in Dawson Creek's violent crime spree. There was a recent double murder here, and TV journalist Michael Popov covered it.
We are headed to the Mile Zero Trailer Park. It's where Tina Nellis and Roy Ely were thought to be shot. Mile Zero Trailer Park is kind of notorious for crime.
Darylyn's stepsister, Jordan Cornish, knew both the victims. So did Darylyn.
I have no clue why. No clue. And I mean, there's so many rumors about Darylyn, there's even less about Tina and Roy.
Darylyn went missing 2 months after the double murder.
The last rumor I'd heard about her where she was in someone's house and wasn't supposed to be there when these people showed up, heard something she wasn't supposed to hear, saw something, and they shot her in the face for that.
During our investigation, we asked who may have more information about violent crime in Dawson Creek. And one name came up over and over again.
Tanner Murray was arrested last week. The 30-year-old has been charged with 2 counts of assaulting a police officer.
Tanner Murray is well known to police. Last December, he was arrested after being on the run from police, wanted for robbery and uttering threats. Then he was released. In the spring of 2024, he was arrested again, facing 11 new charges. Police say a search of his vehicle yielded ammunition, a loaded firearm, and support gear for organized crime. He was released once again. Our investigation has revealed he was in contact with Darilyn on the day she disappeared.
The last time I saw her, she was really preoccupied though with her phone and talking to Tanner, and I don't know what was going on.
Police have started asking questions about Tanner and Darilyn.
They all seem more interested in Tanner and what he was doing than anything else. And then a lot of people are pointing fingers at Tanner too. And then Renee organized those couple of searches.
We wanted to know, could Renee Didier's disappearance be connected to Darilyn's murder? Remember, Renee was pushing for answers about her missing cousin. Did that put her at risk?
Most likely it did. She didn't care what she said to somebody. She didn't, just said what she had to say. And I think she stood up, she did stand up to a lot of people, so yeah. Probably got her into trouble quite a bit.
Last May, a worker was taking water samples from this remote section of the Kiskatinaw River when they made the grisly discovery of what police would call human remains. 6 months after she went missing, police used a distinctive arm tattoo to make a positive identification. It was the body of Renee Didier.
According to the RCMP, the last time Renee Didier was seen alive was in the early morning hours of December 3rd at this local gas station. But the Fifth Estate has learned she was seen hours after that by her cousin.
The last time I seen Renee is when I was on a video call with her.
That's the voice of Cheyenne Hambler. Fifth Estate producer Timothy Sawa spoke to her recently on the phone.
And where was she when you talked to her there?
She was in a hotel room. She was in the hotel room with Tanner Murray.
And who was it who answered the phone initially?
Tanner.
It was Tanner. Okay.
It was Tanner on the video call. Yeah, he answered the phone.
And
he was just laying in a hotel bed.
Cheyenne could see they were in a room in this hotel, along with another man, Brian Mooney. A couple of hours later, Cheyenne and Renee again spoke on the phone. Renee promised to meet up with her. That's the last time she ever heard from her cousin. We uncovered no evidence either man was involved in the murders, but we still had questions. We learned Mooney has since died of an overdose. Tanner Murray's lawyer wouldn't speak to the Fifth Estate. So we went to Murray's home. We were told he lives here, above this garage. No one answered the door when we went calling. After our visit, the RCMP arrested Tanner Murray once again at this hotel for assaulting a police officer, the possession of weapons, 1,000 rounds of ammunition, and plenty of drugs. This time, he's being held in custody. During our trip to Dawson Creek, we also continued to push for answers in the disappearance of Cole Hosack. We wanted to know what was on the CCTV footage from these cameras recorded after Cole got into a dispute in the bar across the street.
The Fifth Estate has learned crucial details about the night Cole went missing. Security camera footage shows he came running from the parking lot of the Lone Star Bar in this direction. He tried to find a way between these two buildings, only to learn it was a dead end. At that point, he ran in this direction. Moments later, a truck was seen in pursuit. And that was the last time Cole Hosack was seen alive.
It's actually really nice little part of the bush, but there's older camps there from other people.
There is another person with a long criminal history in Dawson Creek, who our sources say is connected to Tanner Murray. Recently released from prison, he now lives in an encampment in the woods. His name is John Omniak.
Hey John, I'm Mark.
This is Mark Kelly.
John, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
He's 41 years old and he's been in and out of jail for violent assaults and weapons offenses. His brother is in prison for shooting a woman in the face. Wijayakoon says he can't outrun their past.
I can't because of my last name.
Tell me about that. What's wrong with your last name? Omniak. That's a name we've heard a lot of.
Yeah, Omniak. Well, basically, it's because of what happened in the past with me and my brothers, right? Basically.
What happened in the past with you and your brothers?
Just murder charges, my brothers, right? And then I got accused of murdering, a couple people in trailer court, and and then a couple people recently as I went missing, Lynn and stuff like that, right? But they got no proof of me doing any of that.
Do you have anything to do with Darylyn's death? Do you have anything to do with Renee's death?
I have nothing to do with anybody's death. I would just keep my nose clean and just stay out of trouble. That's basically it.
Another sign that tensions are high here? 4 officers showed up at the encampment, concerned for our safety after they were told we were there with John Wijayakoon.
Oh, so it's like just like a wellness check?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we appreciate that.
People need to know what's going on here, and they need people to come here. Somebody needs to come here and clean it up here.
When we come back, we take Dawson Creek's concerns to the officer leading the investigations into the missing and murdered.
I think the concern in the community, it's warranted in that at this point in time, we haven't charged anybody and we haven't convicted anybody.
It was a Fifth Estate viewer who urged us to come to Dawson Creek, a town of 12,000 people, to bring its struggles to the country's attention, to help find a way forward, following a long trail of dead. Lance Patterson found in 2021, murdered, his car set on fire. A yet-to-be-named victim shot and found in his vehicle in 2022. Tina Nellis murdered at the Mile Zero trailer park along with her partner Roy Ely in 2023. Chris Engman, his body found under the Kiskatinaw Bridge in 2023. Dave Domingo, one of the 4 people to go missing in Dawson Creek, believed to have been shot at a farm outside of town, but so far, no body's been found. Byron Horn, found murdered inside a local residence. Darylyn Supernant went missing in 2023. 8 months later, her cousin, Renee Didier, also went missing, both later found dead. Robert Gerbov, found murdered on New Year's Eve in 2023. And then Cole Hosack, missing on New Year's Eve of 2023 as well. So far, no trace of him. That's a total of 11 murdered or missing in 3 years. All the cases unsolved.
Get some cops that care about the people here. Get investigators here that will do something about it. I don't know, I'm just shaking. You start talking about stuff like that, it's sad.
Because you've seen all the damage that's been done.
Yeah. And it's still doing.
You want your town back.
We want our kids back.
There's frustration. There's absolute frustration.
Michael Popov, one of the last journalists left in Dawson Creek, says the lack of transparency from the RCMP has fed that frustration.
It's been a complete disaster. We've been able to get no information. It's just been closed door, slammed doors.
Hi, Corporal Saunderson. This is Mark Kelley calling from the Fifth Estate. How are you? It took us weeks of calling, emailing, and eventually showing up at the detachment in Dawson Creek before the RCMP finally agreed to an interview. We arrived at the provincial headquarters outside of Vancouver with questions for the man who heads up major crime investigations for rural BC.
Hi, Superintendent.
Mark
Kelley.
Good to meet you.
Great to meet you. Thank you.
Superintendent Sanjaya Wijayakoon.
People are afraid. They're telling us that they are afraid to go out at night, that they are afraid that one of their children could be next.
Mm-hmm. I totally understand that sort of mentality. But when I say that if there were a public safety risk, we would come forward, we'd do the appropriate warnings.
If there were a public safety risk, tell that to Cole Hosack's family.
How can someone who's never been there just disappear?
That's the question.
2 months into Cole's disappearance, his mother Julie says the RCMP stopped communicating.
When I was calling the RCMP and I was not getting any responses from them, I finally lost my mind and made a Facebook post and tagged the BC RCMP.
The RCMP are failing Cole, they're failing me, and they're failing the community, she posted. It's been over 15 days since I've heard from them. I am done being silent.
How were you feeling during those 15 days?
I feel like definitely angry, frustrated, not knowing where to turn. Like, what do you do? How do I go through this without them?
It's got to feel pretty lonely too.
Yeah.
When you're at your lowest.
Well, for Cole's mom, I apologize if that's truly what happened. I'll definitely look into that.
The RCMP is now questioning Julie's version, but she's adamant that's how it happened.
Do you believe Cole Hosack is alive?
I do not. I believe foul play is at work here.
I want to ask you about the police. What's your sense of what they did?
Not a whole lot.
Jordan Cornish is Darylyn's Supernant's stepsister. She says the RCMP never interviewed her until she finally called them.
I asked them what was how things were going with my sister's case, and they asked me, well, who's your sister? And so I told them Darylyn, and they're, oh, that's your sister. And I remember the cop who did take my statement, he just seemed bored.
Why do these people have frustration that they're trying to help the police and the police aren't listening to them? That's the impression that they have.
Well, that's very unfortunate. It kind of blows my mind to hear that. One of the first things a conscientious investigator is going to do, Mark, is talk to the family. My teams make it a priority to speak to the families.
Dawson Creek Mother Bear Laura Lambert is the aunt of both murdered women, Renee and Darylyn. Here they are together in happier times at Renee's wedding.
Why? Because they're Native girls, they went missing. They've been hundreds and thousands of tips, and it seems like the cops ain't doing a damn thing about it.
I know the history that the Indigenous community has had with the police. I know how hurting the families are, and I understand why that aunt would think that way. I can assure her that nobody in my section, nobody in the Dawson Creek RCMP feels like that.
Ultimately, people in the community want to know what happened to their friendly small town.
Is there a turf war over the drug sales, drug trade in Dawson Creek?
I think there's about 50 people in that area, and extends into Alberta a little bit, who are involved in the street to mid-level drug trade. And they're all known to each other. And it's that circle who are constantly involved in these kind of acts of violence against each other. And they're causing a lot of the trouble.
How do you explain that in the last couple of years, there's 11 either missing, murdered, or suspicious deaths with no arrests, no charges, no answers? How do you explain that to these families?
Well, it's a tough one, but I can explain it this way, that these investigations sometimes take very, very lengthy periods of time. But for me and my teams, the goal is an arrest. It really is arrest, laying charges, and then convictions.
For a town desperate for justice and healing, for the first time, the RCMP is offering hope.
I do feel that on some of these cases we're going to have success and some answers will come for some of the families. I'll have to leave it at that.
Soon?
In my opinion, for some of the cases, I think, you know, within the next 6 months, we will have some level of success.
Another sign of hope? Violent crime in Dawson Creek has started to trend downward as people are looking for their own solutions, like more drug treatment facilities, more citizens on patrol, More people fighting for their town.
I'm speaking out. I'm leery, but I don't care, because if it's going to recognize people come forward and start saying stuff, all the power to them, all the power to Dawson Creek to stick together and get rid of these people.
With every death in Dawson Creek, like Darylyn Supernant and her cousin Renee Supernant Didier. Every disappearance in Dawson Creek, like the case of Cole Hosack. The promise of somebody's son or daughter dies in the darkness. That's why Leanne Greyeyes left a candle at her niece Renee's gravesite. A ray of light to keep Renee's young cousin safe. These broken families hoping their pain, their loss, can be a catalyst for change.
And you don't want Cole to be forgotten.
No, I don't want Cole to be forgotten. But I also don't want anybody else to be forgotten. Not Renee, not Darylyn, not the other people that have gone missing, or the people that have been murdered and nothing has been solved. But I would like it if this helped the town, so that someone else going through town doesn't disappear.